Hey guys, we're back. This time we're going to be taking a look at the daddy of all 4X space games, Zaya Legends of a Drift System from Far Off Games. I played this a few times at a couple conventions and events I went to, and I've been dying to get my hands on my own copy to do a review of and to have on hand here to start teaching to new people, the people I play with, because it's just an awesome game. The new expansion's out for it too, which adds even more to it. And there's a ton of stuff in here, from awesome game components to amazing pre-painted ships. And there's a whole picture of them there if you can see. But metal coins, just everything component-wise in this game is great. And I can't wait to get in and show it to you. First off, the box weighs an absolute ton because of everything in there. And it's really thick too, which is nice. Mine's kind of a mess right now because I kind of just threw everything in there. I'm going to come up with a better storage solution here soon. But first thing we have is our rulebook. And it doesn't have a flashy cover like most rulebooks. It's actually got a component list right on the cover. And then your basic setups and how to play. This is another one of those games that's very complicated at first, but once you've played a few games, things will pick up and get way faster for you. I suggest learning how to play by watching someone else play. There's a ton of how to play videos on YouTube and BGG. Check those out and learn from there, but you have the book for reference. There's also a nice little reference cheat sheet on the back. We have our system tiles here. These are what you're going to be using to make the map. I wish there were a couple more of the blank empty system tiles. I know you can buy like a dev kit thing to add new ones to your game. I like the empty void space. It basically makes things feel a little bit more realistic when you explore, and you don't always come up on something. Sometimes you get those empty systems, but you have things like asteroid fields, there's a nebula, and there are various planets, and the planets have a shield around them. You can tell their faction by the color of the shield. So in the case of this one, we're neutral. You can only enter or exit from the gate on this side of the planet. If you try to pass through the gate, you're in the risk of getting a warrant or not even being able to do it. And then we have these planets with the blue, our lawful planets. And then we have our outlaw planet. Just going to the outlaw planet makes you a outlaw. And of course there's the sun, Zaya. As you're exploring, you're going to match the symbol here on the tile with one on a new tile that you discover. So you rotate them around until those two symbols match. And that's how you build your systems. This keeps you from getting two planets like this with the gates right next to each other so people can just fly back and forth. Now it does mean two good trade planets can still be side to side, and that's one of the minor issues with the game. It does have a couple problems here and there, but that was kind of remedied a little bit in the expansion with the trade market, so that even if you get two really good planets side by side, you can't necessarily fly back and forth because one of them may run out of resources. And the really cool thing about the game is the variety of tiles available. There's even the gates, which you can use to warp across the galaxy depending on where they pop up. So next we have our cards here. The first ones are our title cards. And these are going to come up throughout the course of the game. They give you an objective to meet. If you meet that objective, you claim these titles, and they're worth fame points at the end of the game. There's a nice variety of them. Most of them are the first person to do so-and-so, and then you get the reward at the bottom. Once you've claimed the title, you're going to get these abilities down here. Everyone has a different ability. Next we have our mission cards. These are another one of the small things about the game. While some of them are really cool, others are like almost useless in that a lot of them require you to go to a specific system and do various things. If those systems are not in play yet, then you really can't do anything with that mission. And it kind of sucks if you end up getting stuck with a couple missions that you can't do anything with. You got to keep going back and getting more, and so on. So keep that in mind, that you may end up with missions that you can't complete yet. It just incentivizes you to explore a little bit more, find those systems so you can do them. Next we have the player reference cards. The game supports up to 5 players out of the box. And one side gives you the steps and phases of your turn and what you can do during each. And the other side is a little cheat sheet on how to win. Basically explains all the ways that you can get fame points. There are 3 NPC cards included in the game. They come out at various times and each have various things that they do. Basically makes the space feel a little more occupied, as you have the Enforcer, which is basically a cop who patrols for outlaws. You have the Scoundrel, who basically runs around the board causing havoc. And you have a Merchant who runs a supply trade back and forth between planets, slowly getting more and more money and kind of enticing players to eventually attack it, thus becoming an outlaw themselves. Next we have our fame track. This is basically your victory point counter. You choose a amount that you want to play to, and then throughout the course of the game, various things are going to gain you fame. First person to get to the amount that you've set is the winner. You cannot buy the last point that you need, so if you're playing a game to 15, you cannot buy that last point from 14 to 15 with money. You have to do some other way of getting a fame point, so you have to keep that in mind as well. You can play all the way up to 20 on this. The less fame points, the quicker the game. We find that 10 is about the best average. Doesn't make the game drag on too long, and at the same time gives you time to upgrade ships and buy different things to really get the full course of the game. I've seen some people play to 5, and you don't even get fully explored by the time you get to 5, let alone have the options to buy new ships and things like that. Along the way, you see these cards here. This is where new titles come out. And then they each have basically your reputation for when you're at those ranks of fame. Next we have our ship mats. There's one of these for each ship in the game. You have your starter ships here, which are the tier 1. And each of these also has a card that goes with it that gives you a various ability based on the ship that you take. And those stay with you, so when you upgrade to a tier 2 ship, you get to keep the ability from your tier 1 ship. So you can kind of customize depending on the path you go through the ships. By the time you get a tier 3 ship, you have 3 different abilities, and based on which ones you picked earlier on, they can be different every game. These show you basically a 3D graphic of your ship. This is your hull layout with your cargo slots that you can use for outfits and systems that you want to equip on your ship, as well as the items you pick up. There's a spot for a bounty up here if you have one on your ship. These are your energies. If you ever run out of energy, you're pretty much adrift. So you have to keep that in mind as you're activating various systems and doing things. Other players can come help you, or you can land on planets to restore those. There's other ways to get them back as well. Over here you have your various systems. You can have 4 that'll be armed or disarmed at any time. Basically, your systems that are on your ship, you're going to take an armed marker, put it on there to use the system. At the end of the turn, it's going to be disarmed. And you go through, you can bring these back by spending energy, but overall you have to keep an eye on how much of these you have for what systems you want to run. Say you've got weapons and shields, you have to make sure that you have armed tokens available to arm those when the time comes. This is your price to buy the ship. And it tells you how many cargo space you have, and then of course your impulse token goes there. And as I said, there's a good variety. These are all the tier 1 ships. None of them are anything spectacular, but they're good at what they do. And these all have corresponding models as well. The one thing, the first edition of these, the player mats were much thicker but they were prone to warping from humidity and whatnot. So this new edition and future printings have these smaller, they're much thinner boards, which normally I would complain about board thickness, but these are supposed to hold up much better than those original ones, and they're not prone to warping. So we'll see how that goes, but something to keep in mind. And then a quick look here at our Tier 2 ships. You can see we got much more cargo space to work with, higher price tag, and much more energy on these. They also tend to look slightly cooler, as you are moving up in the world by the time you can afford to buy one of these. And again, they all come with special abilities unique to each ship. And on to our Tier 3. These are the massive big boys. You can see the huge amounts of power. Nice cargo spaces on them. And these are pretty much your end game ships. If you're not playing to a higher points cost, you're probably never even going to run into these. These are the ability cards that tie to each of the ships. You have the Tier 1s, the Tier 2s, and the Tier 3s. They're all unique to each ship, and they stack, so when you upgrade from your Tier 1 to your Tier 2, you'll end up with both of the abilities. And some of them do some really cool things, other ones are kind of meh. Usually it depends on the ship they come on. If the ability is great, then the ship usually is mediocre. If the ability is kind of lame, then the ship itself is usually pretty good. But they had a nice variety to the game because you can mix and match, and every time you play, you pick a different path through the ships, you're going to end up with a different combo of those abilities. So I have to give credit, the insert is probably one of the best laid out ones I've seen. Sleeved cards have trouble fitting in the slots. There is a little bit of room. They kind of made it so you can put some cards this way, some cards this way. If you put them all this way, there's a little bit extra room for sleeve cards, but then you run into an issue of them being too tall. Tile slot here for the space tiles is great. They give you plenty of other spaces up there for things, and the clear section here has room for the tokens and your outfits and everything else. And we have our clear acrylic bases for the ships. They're kind of an oddball one. They're not the standard base that you see on most games, but they're kind of neat in the aspect that because the players can change ships to keep track of whose is whose, you get these cool little markers that slide right on the base, and now you know whose ship is whose. There's also a outlaw ones that go on your ships. If you do anything to become an outlaw, that marks your ship as an outlaw, so everybody knows. And then we have our actual ship models, if I can get the camera to focus on it. And they range from these little guys, which are your Tier 1 ships, these slightly larger guys here, which are your Tier 2 ships. Try to match up the ones with the top cards I have showing there. And then you have the big boys here, which are your Tier 3 ships. The paint jobs are good. They're not terrible like a lot of pre-painted things. They're not amazing, so people who are into painting are probably going to want to redo them or touch them up, highlight things. But they're definitely playable the way they are, and they're cool because I absolutely hate painting. So it's great to have a pile of miniatures. I think there's 21 ships in here, all pre-painted. And another real amazing aspect of the game is that no two of the ships are alike. So everyone is completely different and unique, which is just awesome. Then we have a standard set of dice for all your rolling. I was originally going to replace these with a matched set just for appearance-wise, but then I realized all of the cards and abilities and things are color-coded to go with various dice. So you really want to keep them in those original colors that come with the game. Then we have a whole slew of plastic cubes for your various commodities. These aren't the wooden ones you see in most games. They're actually plastic, which is kind of cool. And they even have transparent ones for some of the items. Next we have our bag of exploration tokens. Whenever you explore, there's going to be spots on the map where you put these. You find these, you pick them up, you flip them over, and they have various things on the other side. Like there's one for extra money. There's a couple that are blank. Sometimes there's a fame point and so on those. And we have damage crystals. They're little acrylic tokens. They're going to be used whenever your ship takes damage. These are going to go on the various spots in your bay. Next we have the outfits, which are probably one of the coolest unique features of the game. They're the various weapon systems and things that you can buy to add to your ship. In this case, we're looking at missile launchers, and they come in 3 different lengths. You got these big ones here. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, but they roll a D20. They're 3,000 credits, and they take up 5 in a straight line on your bay. Where we got the smaller missile launchers here, which do D12, only take up 4, and then the little ones do a D8, only take up 3 spaces. We have blaster cannons, which have the L shape here. You got the big ones, the medium ones, and the little ones of those. We have new engines, and these you can see have the Z here, the little L there, and the odd-shaped one here, which is like a cube with one off to the side. Those let you move farther on your turn. And then we have shields. These are going to be hard to show because they're a mess in there, but you have this big shield here is a plus, the bastion shields. Then you have your smaller shields, which are a T-shape, and the little ones, which are the straight line here. They're kind of like Tetris pieces, and you have to fit them into the hold of your ship in order to equip them on your ship. So depending on how you have things laid out, it really matters what can fit where. On some of the smaller ships, you can't even use certain systems like the Bastion Shield because they won't fit in the ship. Very cool aspect of the game. Next we have our little baggies of player tokens. This has your impulse engine, your color marker, and then all your little markers you're going to need to put on your player board for your activation tokens and things. And they come in 5 different colors. There's yellow, black, green, as you can see with the glare, red, and blue. And then the last thing we have in our box here, I'm going to throw all over and make a mess of, are these awesome tokens. And they're actual metal coins. They could have been cardboard, but they went all out and made them metal. These are your 1,000 credit coins. You actually get 30 of those to use for the game, as well as the blue 5,000 credit ones. You get 10 of those, and they're basically your I keep dropping them. They're basically your currency for the game, and these are what you're going to be using to buy, sell, and upgrade your ship, and so on. And then there's a look at everything that comes in the box. All sorts of stuff. The game is absolutely massive. It's a blast to play. It's probably the best 4X space game that I have played. There's a ton of things in there. Love the ship models. Love everything. The metal coins. The game itself is just a blast to play. If anything, it drags on a little bit too long if you play at an exceptionally high fame point rate. But depending on the people you're playing with, you might want to play those higher point cost games just to make it last longer, to get into those bigger ships and have a lot more going on. There is a bit of imbalance between some of the ships, so it comes down to who's the first one to earn enough money to buy the ship they want. There's also some really powerful combos if you get the ships in their correct orders. Some of the exploration tokens are a bit underwhelming when you can get nothing as opposed to a fame point. That is fixed in the new version of the game, the expansion that came out, as well as the short trade routes that make that the easiest win condition. Overall, the only real issues with the game, most of them were all remedied in the expansion, so you have to pick up that expansion if you really want the full experience of the game. It also changes the way the game starts, as well as having a station in play all the time. My one minor complaint about the base game is that you can play and win in so many different ways. There's different ways to earn the victory points, by trading, by buying and selling stuff, by exploring. But at the beginning of the game, really the only thing to do is to explore. You have to get these tiles out there and build the system up and discover all the areas. Then you can look at mining materials to bring back and sell, or doing the missions because you need the planets out there in order to do, or even messing with the NPCs because you got to discover their home planets to get them into the game. So while there is all this different stuff you can do, the very first part of the game plays very similar every time, as you're always going out trying to explore. You're getting these exploration tokens, and that part really doesn't change too much. Also, as far as the combat goes, I'm not huge into player versus player, so it doesn't bother me much. But if you're the route that wants to go pirate and wants to go player hunter, the defensive measures heavily outweigh the offensive measures, and it's very difficult to take out other players. They did have some things in the new expansion to remedy pretty much every complaint I had about the game, but gotta go to say, it plays just fine the way it is. You can play this, you can have a blast with it the way it is. If you do pick up the expansion, it's going to add so much more to it, and you definitely will not be upset about getting it. If you're into 4X games, this is like a must-have if you like space themes, if you like the awesome pre-painted miniatures. And they're actually made of like a rubbery, like a soft, flexible material. When I first saw the game, I thought they were metal and painted, but they're not. They're like a rubbery plastic, so you don't have to worry about them getting scratched or chipped. The paint holds up on them really well. Overall, though, the components are top-notch. You can't beat them. The whole idea of the Tetris-style systems being equipped on your ship was the selling point. That's what got me on board with this game to begin with. The fact that you can customize it to how you want it. If you want to go weapons heavy and go hunt down other people, you can. If you want to get engines for movement to go exploring, you can do that. Boost up your shields. I definitely recommend the game to anybody who is interested in any kind of space exploration, combat, you know, any of that stuff. It plays like it would a MMORPG type thing, if you really want to think about it. You're going around doing these missions, busy work to build up money, use the money to buy new ships, use that money you gain from those to upgrade the ships with new weapon systems and things. You're picking up and trading commodities to different planets. You're exploring and getting these exploration tokens. You're doing interplanetary missions back and forth across the galaxy. You're hunting down the scoundrel or protecting the merchant from other players who might want to do that. If you become an outlaw yourself, you're trying to avoid the other players who are trying to hunt you down for that bounty, as well as the enforcer will come after you. Things like that. So much to see and do, and it can be a completely different experience every time you play. I don't want to sound like somebody who's being paid to promote the game, because I'm not. They did send me the review copy here. Everything I'm saying is genuine from my experiences of playing it, and I just absolutely love the game. I can't wait to get my hands on the expansion. That adds a ton of new stuff to the game, and really looking forward to that. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for our look at Xia Legends of a Drift System from Far Off Games. Definitely recommend this one, as I've said multiple times. I'm not going to say it again. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.